Currently walking a blood sugar of 125 and stable. Had a pretty good day today, not going to complain. But we're going to get into an Omnipod change for you guys. I'm going to be rotating my Omnipod from my left thigh to my right arm. So with that being said, let's get started with today's video. Hey everyone, it's Maddie. Welcome back to my channel. And as you can tell by the title of today's video, I'm going to be changing my Omnipod for you guys. This is the Dash, so it's a little bit different than a traditional Omnipod, and I haven't really seen a lot of videos about changing the Omnipod Dash except the training videos. Unless any of you have other type 1 diabetic YouTubers have gotten the Dash. But I know the Dash was a limited release and not a lot of people have it unless you have appropriate insurance. Like me having a subsidiary of United Healthcare, they are closely tied with Omnipod, and which means that I got dibs on the Dash system, one of the first people in the state of Wisconsin to actually get it. I know one of the first 10 or 15, and I was the first at my clinic to get it. But anyways, I'm going to quick show you the materials that you need to change an Omnipod, and what I do on an Omnipod change day in addition to changing my Omnipod. So obviously you're going to need a new pod, which comes with a syringe body and an actual syringe. You need your PDM to deactivate and reactivate a new pod. You need some form of insulin, usually rapid-acting insulin. I use Humalog in a vial. And then you need an alcohol swab to clean your infusion set. This is the old cover to my old Lancet. I also change my Lancet out on the days I change out my pods. I use my Lancets for about 3 days, and then they start getting really dull, and then I figure time to change them. And then so we have the backing to the old Lancet, the actual lancing device, and a new Lancet. And then I also like to wipe down my PDM on days I change it with this little microfiber cleaning cloth just to get the smudges off of it. And this is another optional thing, but this is a hand mirror. And what I like to do with the hand mirror is, in addition to looking at the pink slider to see if the Omnipod has deployed the cannula properly, I also use this hand mirror. And what's cool with the hand mirror is you can actually look and see exactly if you can see the blue cannula or not. So let's get started right into a change. So the first thing you're going to want to do is deactivate the old pod. Now, I forget, these past 2 times I've changed a pod, I forgot to fill it to 100 units, so I've been running like on low reservoir pretty much for the past 6 hours. So for my 2 meals today, I actually gave myself injections, but it works just fine. But as you can see, it says low reservoir, pod expired, and it just expired like maybe 5 minutes ago. So you can view the details, and from there it's going to ask me to change pod. Now, the beauty of the Omnipod, and I know a lot of insulin pumps walk you through the pump changing process, so if you forget any steps or anything, you can get it here. But a pod change process is super fast, but I'm going to be doing it kind of slower today just because obviously I'm filming it and I don't want to miss anything. So this was the details, and then it's going to ask me to change pod, so I'm going to touch that, and then it's going to say deactivate your pod. To change your pod, you must first deactivate the current pod. Deactivating your pod will stop any and all insulin delivery. So you hit deactivate pod. It's going to deactivate. And it beeped. So now it says no active pod. Set up new pod. I'm going to quick pull this one off of my thigh. And low reservoir, that means that there's less than 5 units of insulin in there. So I didn't let it run out to the point where it was going to scream at me. But it's probably a good idea to not let it run anymore. And this was such a good site. I'm kind of sad and bummed to get rid of this pod because it was such a good site. Like, I had no high blood sugar problems with it. Or if my blood sugar was trending up, it would do a good job. Now, an option what you can do is, which I won't show, is typically when I have a site, I get little welts. So I'll put like Neosporin and a Band-Aid and slap it on the site that I wore it on. And it helps to heal the cannula insertion better. Here's the old pod. You can see that was a really good looking site. The cannula was not bent. The adhesive stuck good. It was perfect. So this is the old pod. This can be thrown in the garbage. Now I'll unlock my PDM again because it's kind of going slow. So it says set up new pod. Then it just says fill pod with U100 insulin and listen for 2 beeps. So to do that, you have to take your package and open it. And then I like to just take the pod out and set it down while I put together the syringe body. So this is the actual syringe body where you can see how much to fill. This is a syringe top. You just screw it on and pull it off. And there's actually a little needle here that sits so that you can fill it up. So I'm going to put this back in the tray because it's just easier to fill it while it's sitting in the tray. So then I'm going to take my alcohol swab. Now I use the same one to wipe the vial and then wipe my site because I don't think it's as cross-contaminating. So the first thing I do is I wipe the top of the insulin vial. And then I'm going to apply it to my right arm. So I just take the alcohol swab and I kind of go everywhere because you just don't know. I don't know exactly where I'm going to stick it. It's going to be somewhere in this vicinity. But we don't know exactly where. So we're just going to kind of clean the whole thing down. And I do this like right away while I'm changing it so that it gives the alcohol a chance to dry while the actual pod primes. And the beauty of it is the pod primes itself. It automatically inserts. It's such an easy process. That's what I absolutely love about having the Omnipod. So then you're going to draw air back into the syringe. I'm going to draw to, I usually put 150 units of air in and then draw back to 150 units. And then I push up 50 out so that I can get the air bubbles out of the top. So here's the vial. Here's the syringe. Push the air in. Flip it around. And you can see the actual insulin coming out. Now the little champagne bubbles I'm not worried about, but you can see there's actually a couple big air bubbles up top. So now I'm just going to push, and you can see a lot of the air bubbles are going out. Okay, now I'm at 100. So then I'm going to pull this out. And you can see there's some champagne bubbles coming out of here. These I don't worry about. They'll prime themselves out, and then what I do is just flick the heck out of it. There will be some insulin kind of getting splattered all over me here. But it's just a little bit of champagne bubbles that have come out. So I usually flick it, and I like to kind of rotate the syringe while I'm flicking it. You can see that's pretty well good. So then what you're going to do is there's a little hole in the pod. That arrow directs you to where to fill the insulin, and then you're going to listen for 2 beeps. So you put the syringe in. You don't have to jam it in. You'll feel it kind of rest in there. And then you're going to push down until you hear 2 beeps. Okay, and you can see I still had more insulin to go, so I didn't do that. Now I keep my finger on top of the actual syringe, and then I pull up. Just to make sure all the insulin got in there. Then I'm going to hit next on my PDM. It's going to communicate with the pod. Sometimes it takes a few seconds. I do it this way. Now the new Omnipod DASH just communicate via Bluetooth. Now it says priming. Can you hear it clicking? That's just getting all the air bubbles out. It's doing a bunch of safety checks to make sure that this insulin pod is going to be perfect for me. So while I'm doing this, I'll just take the syringe off this. All you have to do is push it down and unscrew it. This part is biohazard. This part is garbage. So then I usually keep a pile of that's all garbage with the old pod. This is going to go in a biohazard container along with the lancet that I change will be in a biohazard. The clicking takes a little bit of time. I noticed that some take longer than others, but now that it's ready. So now it says prepare infusion site, which I already did. The cool thing with the Omnipod DASH is there's an option to record pod site, which I love to use. So I'm going to hit that. And it shows you where your most recents were, but I'm going to go to the front or the back, and I'm going to choose the back right, hit done, and it says back right arm, which is what I'm doing to you guys. This is your left, but this is my right. I think when you'd be viewing this. No, it would be your right too. This is my right arm, your right side, but if I turn this way, it kind of looks like my left arm, but it is my right arm. Now the second step is to remove blue pod needle cap and check the cannula. So all I'm going to be doing here is this is a cap that protects where the cannula comes out. Now, the thing with the Omnipod is it feels like you're going to actually break the pod, but you're not. You just simply push, and the cap comes off. I use this to smooth down the edges of my adhesive. I saw Elena Elise do this with her pods, and I thought that was a really cool idea. So then you can see here, I'm just going to inspect this cannula part. You can see the cannula is not sticking out. Don't be surprised if some insulin does splatter at you. As a matter of fact, there's some insulin on the tips of my fingers right now. That's totally normal. Then we're going to make sure it's not dirty and there's nothing damaged. This pod looks good. Then it says remove the paper backing. Check out the pod, make sure nothing is abnormal, and apply to site. So to peel out the paper backing, there's just little tabs. You just pull it like this. And then I like to hold it with 2 fingers like this while I pull the other end off. Because you got to kind of hold the corner a little bit there. So now it's ready to go on my body. Now I'm going to put it on the back of my arm. The best way you can do it is you can leave your arm kind of dangle like this, and you're going to kind of aim for right here. I'm going to put the cannula facing towards my elbow. It doesn't matter which direction you face the cannula, but it's really, really easy to do. It doesn't make a difference of where you face it. I find it works either direction for me on my arms. Same with my thighs, same with my stomach. And rotating it actually either direction gives you more options for sites. Because if you think about it, if you're flipping the cannula, that gives you an extra 2 to 3 inches in between sites. So say I wanted to wear it on my right arm again, I could just do it with the cannula facing towards my shoulder blade or towards my shoulder bone this time. So I'm going to actually face it towards my elbow. So I just kind of like to pick and choose a little area. Now, the arm sites are always hardest for me to get the adhesive right, but we're going to see if I can do this time. I can never seem to get a straight adhesive on an arm site. No matter how hard I try, there's always going to be some sort of wrinkle, and it drives me crazy. So then I'm just going to smooth it down, kind of go around it, push down. Yeah, you can already tell there's a couple wrinkles. But I never really had a problem with it, but that's why I like to use this blue cap. And it kind of helps smooth some of these wrinkles down. The main area that you got to be concerned about with the Omnipod, you guys, is right by the cannula. If this isn't pushed down, then you're not going to get the cannula in properly. But it's not really hard to make sure everything else is down. And actually, this isn't too bad. These wrinkles aren't going to really bother me. These are just more like folded with my actual muscle in the back of my arm. So this looks like a good spot. Yeah, it's not going to bother me here. This is a really good spot on my arm. So I'm just going to smooth this down and keep smoothing it down for a couple minutes. Yeah, I know I don't have a pod active because I'm taking my time filming. Yeah. But this looks pretty good. This is probably the best looking arm site I had. I remember when I first trained with the trainer, like I had like 3 or 4 wrinkles in mine. But as you can see, there's only 2 here. There's 1 here and there's 1 here, but they're in areas I'm not really worried about. Just be mindful that if you start seeing water go underneath, then you might want to put like a piece of medical tape or an overpatch or something. But I never really have to worry about overpatches with these. They like stick on super good. So now we're ready to deploy the cannula. So tap start to insert cannula and begin your basal delivery. Once I hit start, it takes about 5 clicks and then it goes in. So I'm going to prop myself up for this one so you can see it. I don't squeeze my arm, but you guys can. All I do is relax my arm and I just let it be. Here we go. Then it says, please confirm that the pod is attached to your body. The cannula can only be inserted only 1 time per pod. Tap confirm when ready to insert. So I hit confirm. Here we go. The loud click is when it goes in. And it just went in. Didn't hardly feel it. Now it's going to ask me if the cannula is inserted properly. There's actually 2 ways you can check this. So can you guys see? I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm going to try to turn this brightness down and maybe you can see it. Maybe. There you go. So there's this yellow circle, but you see next to this yellow circle there's kind of a square. Well, you can see that that square is filled pink. So that means that this slider went down this way. And that means that the cannula was driven into my body. So that is one safety check to say yes. So then once it sees that, I hit yes. And then it says basal, for me, basal 3 is active because I'm in the middle of reprogramming stuff. And then it just tells me my pod's going to expire on Friday. And there's 50 plus units of insulin in there. And it's also going to remind me to check my blood sugar 90 minutes after a pod change. I usually just look at my Dexcom. Sometimes I'll do a finger prick depending on how I'm feeling or if I might be running high or if my blood sugar is doing something really goofy. But then the other way you can check is looking through the window. You should be able to see the blue cannula sticking through. And it's going to be hard to show you guys that on film. But that's why I love to use a hand mirror, because then I can look and see exactly. I'm actually going to put it towards the light, then I can see. Oh yeah, I can see the blue cannula sticking through. Now, I don't think you guys will be able to see it with the way I am, but right in here is where you would be able to view the cannula. And the back of the arm is one of the most comfortable spots for me. I get good absorption on the back of the arm and on my stomach. And I'm surprised, actually, this thigh site, more of the front of my thighs get better absorption than the side. And I also feel like having them closer to the front, like I had this last one, it absorbs super duper well. But I really don't have a problem putting Omnipods on arms, thighs, stomach. I would like to try in some other unusual areas, like the back of my calf, if I ever get gutsy enough. But for now, I'm just sticking to these sites. But I'm kind of glad to switch back to an arm site for the Omnipod, because I feel like it's one of my better sites. And I've been using my stomach and thigh just a little bit too much, and it's time to use an arm again. But the arm and the abdomen for me are the least painful. Strange enough, every time I put in a thigh site, it hurts like a bugger. But then the pain stops, and it's a great site. It's kind of strange. It's almost like I feel like I have so much muscle or so much like maybe tension when I'm using my thigh. Maybe I have to like relax my thigh more, or lay my leg across the chair or something to keep it kind of flat, so that my muscle isn't as tense. Maybe that's why it hurts more. But you guys could see all I did was I just sat like this. I didn't have my arm tensed up. I just relaxed my arm. You can do a pinch method, where basically what you do is once you have the pod inserted or placed on your body, you can squeeze up like this to kind of relieve some of the tension. You can also do it on your abdomen this way. Thigh, you can also do more for the side of the thigh if you can pinch up. That actually might help relieve some of that pressure. I've only tried a pinch up method on my stomach when I had it on the lower part of my stomach, kind of at an angle. I did pinch up. But I do find too, you could put Omnipods at a slight angle. Like on my arm, it's pretty close to 90, but you can even see like from the back, it's at just the slightest angle. And I still get the greatest absorption with it. And yeah, so this is how to change an Omnipod. And the only other thing I do is change my lancet. So if you guys want to see, I actually changed my lancet. Here you go. You pull it off, push it out, put the cap on. This can now go in sharps with the other syringe top, and then you just push this in, twist this off, brand new lancet, put this back down, click, and then I take my cloth and I just kind of wipe the PDM off. Ooh, there's actually some nicks in this screen. Okay, because this screen's kind of plastic. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me bring it up to the light. Oh yeah, see these? These are little scratches from the actual screen just having been around. And this is my newer PDM that I've only had for like 2 weeks. So, it just goes to show you that it's kind of rough and tough, but I've dropped this PDM a couple times already and it doesn't seem to hurt it. But I may look at getting a more durable case. I know like Sugar Medical has great more rubbery cases. And maybe I'll invest in like a plastic or a glass screen protector for the Omnipod, or custom make one so that, like, heaven forbid it gets in a rough and tough situation, that I can actually use this pod for longer. Although I don't think Omnipod would have an issue replacing a PDM if it were to get damaged. Because of the Dash system, as long as you purchase pods, PDMs come at no cost to you. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I have a big mess to clean up on my floor. But that is how to change an Omnipod, how to put one on, how I do it. And I love having an Omnipod, and it's not an inconvenience, and I don't find it bulky. I love being able to shower with it, get dirty, be active, and not worry about tangling tubing. I've had no issues with cannula kinks in different areas of my body. I've never had that happen. Absorption has been great, and I'm very overall pleased with the Omnipod DASH system. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. Feel free to hit that subscribe button down below. I post videos every single week about diabetes plus more. Stay tuned for more videos coming out on the Omnipod DASH. I hope to be doing more specs on the PDM and the actual pods themselves. I got some more videos coming out on Dexcom, some more coming out on ketones. I'm hopefully going to be making my channel trailer this month, and I'm also going to be doing a special type 1 diabetes celebration for my 1-year diaversary coming up in 20 days. It's going to be incredible that I've been living with type 1 diabetes for nearly a year. And in this year, I've learned so much and grown so much, and I've gotten to be a part of an amazing community with you guys. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for joining my channel and staying tuned to my channel and being connecting with me. It means the world to me to know that I've got a huge support system out there that also knows that dealing with this resilient disease is like so. Until next time for another video, take care, God bless, be kind, spread positivity, and be thankful. Bye, everyone.